Did you know that you're my hero? Welcome back to that series that I did a while ago and then totally forgot to film more of, called Tiffany Talks About Planning for a Convention. Woo! This is the next part in that video series, and we're going to talk about kind of like how I plan to go to a convention before the convention happens. The last video, if you missed it, is about how I pack to and from conventions. I talk about what I bring to a convention, kind of like the breakdown of clothes and things like that. And then I also talked about how I bring games back from a convention, including nesting them, bagging them, etc. I even show you how I bring back a whole slew of games in the suitcases that I take to conventions. So there's that if you haven't seen that. In this video, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the pre-planning that goes into a convention, and generally when I plan for a convention, I actually start planning 12 months out. And I know that's a little crazy, but for Essen, which is a convention that I go to, which is in Germany, which is international for me, we make a decision on whether or not we're going to Essen about 12 months from when Essen happens, 12 to 11 months. This is because it takes a lot of money to go to Essen, and so we start saving for Essen as soon as we decide we're going to go to Essen. And because Essen is international, we like to pre-book things that we can pre-book as soon as possible, including hotels and potentially flights. We set flight alerts as soon as we know we're gonna go, so that we know when a flight is gonna be its cheapest and we can jump on that. And also the hotels for international stuff, a lot of those hotels will book a year out for the convention, which is awesome, especially if you're like there on site at the convention already. The sooner you book your hotels, the better, especially because most of those European hotels, you don't actually have to pay to book them until like the day you leave. So that's pretty nice. In addition to setting the flight alerts for the flight 12 months out, or as soon as I know I'm going to the convention, and potentially booking a hotel, I put the date of the convention in my calendar so I know when it is and I don't have to look it up for like the rest of the year when I'm planning other things. This is a super simple step that you can do, which will help a lot. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can add additional calendar reminders at different stages leading up to the convention to help you in your planning, which I'm gonna talk about now. 6 months out. Oh yeah. 6 months out is when I start solidifying my travel dates. So I look at when the con is, I look at how long it's going to take me to get to the convention, I look at if it's international or not, how many time zones am I changing? Like, do I need time for my body to get used to the time zones? And I make that decision on like how much time I'm gonna stake out for the show, and I adjust any flight tracker thingy updates that I have at that time in relation to that. In addition to that, I also start looking at flights with that time frame, and if I have a job at the time that requires me submitting vacation, I go ahead and put that vacation in request as soon as possible on that 6 month date. It's super important to solidify your vacation, and if you haven't reserved a hotel, do that now. Do that now. There's no excuse. The hotels might already be gone. 6 months out and you're just looking for a hotel now? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I recommend for Ichi, it was my phone. It was my phone. Shh, it's okay. It's also kids. It's also kids. Yeah, there's kids having fun. For booking flights, I look at websites like Kayak, Expedia, Cheapo Air, Lufthansa, United. Sometimes it's important to check the direct airline you want to fly. Like, for example, having flown international a few times in my life, I will never fly anything but Lufthansa to Germany ever again because, oh my god. Oh my god. Lufthansa is a little bit more expensive, but it's what I prefer because it's just so much better. While you're looking for flights, please take into consideration, especially for international travel, the luggage conditions of the tickets that you're booking. You want to make sure that you have luggage which fits what you're planning to bring back from the show. So there's that. While you're browsing all these websites, you also want to make sure that you're using incognito tabs, which is a nice little feature on Chrome or Firefox. I don't know if Internet Explorer has it, but why are you using Internet Explorer? It's dead. It's dead. The reason I recommend incognito tabs is because browsers, when you go and search for flights on websites, they leave cookies on your browser that make it so when you go back and search for those flights, they will adjust the price of the flights because they know you're looking at them several times in a row. A lot of these sites are owned by the same parent companies, and so they will link together and will be like, oh, you searched for a flight to Germany on these dates on this website. Well, you must really want to go. We'll jack our price up by $10 so you'll think that it's getting more expensive and you'll book. So, incognito tabs, seriously. Also, when you're booking your flights, please make sure you look at the landing time. If you're changing time zones and what would be 11 a.m. is actually your 2 a.m., you might not want to land the morning of the convention and go straight to the convention. I'm just putting this out there. Make sure you put into consideration the times that you're landing, and also, why is Xena being allowed to eat that?
She's not.
Though sometimes you can't always pick when you're going to be flying in or out because sometimes airlines just don't work that way, or you can't afford to get the ideal time. You just want to make sure that you weigh horrible travel time versus horrible arrival time versus cost. Is it worth it for you to arrive on time and have a day to acclimate, maybe 2 days to acclimate, or are you cool just hitting the ground running and just being miserable and jet lagged for the entire show? That's entirely up to you and your finances. I gotta put that out there. If you haven't already reserved a hotel spot, make sure that you reserve your hotel. Also search Airbnb. There are often cheaper Airbnbs in and around the convention center than hotel rooms would be in and around the convention center. So there is that. I will say that if a hotel totes an amazing breakfast complimentary of your room, do take into consideration that that breakfast is being added to your room total in probably large amounts of money, more than what you're going to eat at a continental breakfast. For example, at the hotel that we stay at, we get a breakfast included for €9 a person, which for the breakfast is really freaking good. And it means I don't have to go out and get breakfast. However, at other hotels that I've stayed at, that complimentary breakfast is actually $30 a person and is totally not worth it for the stale bread and old fruit that you get, which is actually just cantaloupe. Seriously, is not worth it. Especially when you can bring your own snacks. Also, super important, I should have said this first, check your passport. If you are flying international, you should already have a passport at 6 months out, or you need to check your passport to make sure that it will not expire within 6 months of your travel date. Otherwise, they won't let you fly with that. Literally, you will be denied at the gate. They will not let you board that plane to the foreign country. So do make sure that your passport is up to date and will not be expiring within 6 months of your travel dates. Also, make sure if you travel a lot that your passport has some pages in it to stamp. Some countries will not let you enter the country if you do not have enough pages for them to stamp when you enter or exit the country. This is a lot to keep track of. Trust me, I know. And so I use TripIt to manage all of my itineraries when booking trips, especially when I'm booking trips this far out. TripIt is an awesome website, and you can get a free account by just going to tripit.com and signing up. The really cool thing about TripIt is you can forward them your receipts and itineraries from various websites like Airbnb, your airlines, your hotels, etc. They will automatically process the information they need and then add it to your TripIt plan to keep them all nice in a row. This, for example, is our TripIt for Germany, which actually I don't know how much I can show you because of confirmation numbers. Our TripIt for Germany was super easy to put together, and with the TripIt app, I can have all of this information available on my phone, even if I don't have internet service, as long as I download it before I get to my destination. And they'll include things like boarding passes and itinerary schedules and links to various websites that are very helpful for me while I am traveling. I love TripIt. This is not a sponsored video by TripIt. I wish it was. TripIt, let me know. That was everything I do 6 months before the show. I know, it's a lot, but it could be more. Because 3 months before the show, I go ahead and start looking at my on-site transportation options. So very frequently, I am flying into an airport that is absolutely nowhere near where I need to end up. So I start looking for transportation for getting to and from the airport, to and from my hotel, to and from the convention, etc. Now, 3 months before the trip. Actually, now is not when it is, but if this was 3 months before that, anyway. So I want to make sure that I have a secured route to get from my airport to the hotel that I am staying at. If I am doing any additional sightseeing before the convention, I want to make sure that I book those travel plans now. For example, Steve and I always take a few days before Essen to go on a little European vacation, and this year we are taking the train to Switzerland to hang out for a little bit. So I made sure to book those train tickets 3 months out, which is the soonest you can book them out on bahn.de, which is the train website where you can pre-purchase tickets for the awesome Euro rail system in Germany, which is super great. They set the time schedules for that rail service 10 years out. 10 years! And they let you buy assigned seats 3 months out. Why would you not? I also at this time double check the luggage policy of whatever airline that I've gone ahead and booked. I also make sure any on-site transportation that I'm using, I double check the luggage policy on that. So I double check the luggage policy on the train, which is basically you can bring what you want as long as you can carry it yourself. Yeah, and I double check that if I'm taking any shuttles or cars or anything like that, what their luggage policies are beyond just like a taxi and what you can fit in the back of a car. 3 months out is also when I start looking at on-site events that are associated with the convention itself. Many conventions like Gen Con or Origins open up their event signups around this time before the convention, so 3 months before the convention starts, and this is a good time to go through, look at what you want, and maybe book or buy those tickets for those events. Essen has no events, so that's not really something I have to worry about with Essen. I also, if I'm traveling international, look into phone service. So 3 months before my trip, I make sure that I have some sort of phone service that will work if I need phone service over in Europe. Do I need, oh, Ichi's ball got stuck. Do I need data? Yes. For me, yes, I need data while I'm in Europe. But do you need data? Do you actually need to check Twitter, or will you be good with the free Wi-Fi at your hotel? That's a decision you should make now, and make sure that you figure out how you're gonna get what you need while you're over there. Some models of phones you can buy prepaid SIM cards and just swap them for yours and they'll work fine over in Germany. Or you could look into activating the international data plan option on your phone, like if you have a big carrier like Verizon, Sprint, or AT&T, or T-Mobile even. I actually invested in getting a phone plan here that just works all around the world. So yeah. In addition to phones, which are super important, we should probably also talk about money, which is probably more important than phone, depending on who you are. You want to research and make sure that your debit card or ATM card or credit card will work in the country that you're going to. You also want to make sure if there's any international transaction fees, what those are, and if it's worth it for you to spend that money that way, or is it just easier for you to get cash? I will say, if you are going to go with cash, you can often just go, if you're going to a country that does euros or yen, or I forget what China is. If you're going to one of the big first world countries, you can often go to your very large bank in your city and do a foreign transaction there for a flat rate, which is much cheaper than doing the foreign transactions in the airport either before or after you fly to or from the country. Those booths and kiosks are a rip-off. Never do foreign transaction buyouts at the booths in the airports. They just always charge way too much and they're not very fair. You're better off holding on to the money if you forget when you're leaving the country, or just taking it to your bank if it's a large enough amount, and they'll take it just fine if it's a first world currency, which I feel like a douche for saying first world currency. So that's something that happened in this video. If you are traveling abroad, make sure you call your bank and tell them that you're traveling abroad, because if you end up using your ATM, debit card, or credit card while in another country, they're gonna be like, no. So you wanna make sure that your bank knows that you're traveling on those dates so they don't flag your transactions as like illegal or weird or something like that. They should know that you're traveling. Doing these phone calls 3 months out is a great idea, because then you don't have to worry about it while you're standing in the airport, which is totally something I haven't done before. We've done it before every time we fly. Okay. Whew, I'm putting it on this list in hopes that I'll remember myself. So that's everything that I do 3 months before the trip. It's a lot, but you know what? So is traveling to another country and going to a con in another country. So yeah. The thing that is probably most effective for right now when this video is produced is the next section, which is of course what I do 1 month out before the trip. And I'm actually doing all of these things now. So what I do when we get 1 month out is I start planning specifically what I will be doing at the con. I no longer have to worry about my hotel, my airfare, or my travel within the country or to and from the country that I'm going to. All I have to worry about is the specifics of what I'm doing at the convention. Some of this is food planning, so I always make sure to buy snacks that travel really easily that I can eat on the go while at the convention. I really like these granola bars or Laura bars. They're super delicious and healthy, and they're a great punch of energy when you're wandering the halls and forget, oh yeah, I haven't eaten for 17 hours. If I'm going as a member of the press, which I do go, I start scheduling all of the meetings that I'm going to be having with various publishers or other media people that I want to hook up with at the show. 1 month out is also when I start looking through the BGG preview list. I actually start sneaking glances at it a little before 1 month out, but there are a lot of games on this list, so I always make sure to do my homework and go through the games that I'm interested. I mark that I'm interested, and then I start looking at rule books for the ones that have rule books up, and I just really want to make sure that I research the game super well because I have such limited luggage space, and this trip overall is so expensive that we do have a very limited budget for games. And so I do a lot of work on this list, and this list that I produce of my own like must-haves interested is what I use to make my most anticipated games from Essen video, which will be releasing when I'm in Germany just before Essen, because so many publishers add to that list at the last second, and some of the games we don't know if they're gonna come out and yada yada yada. So there's that. 1 month out is also when I start making required purchases that I will need for where I'm traveling to. Some of this is snacks related, so granola bars, nuts, things like that that are prepackaged or I can easily prepackage in my own containers to take with me at the convention. I also at this time start purchasing things that I would need, especially if I'm traveling international, such as outlet converters, small surge protectors, additional camera batteries, additional luggage, any kind of phone setup or plan. If I did the research at the 3 month mark out, if it didn't make sense to purchase it then, maybe it makes sense to purchase it now. If I need to get a credit card that does foreign transactions for free with no fee, maybe I apply and get that now. Things like that. I start doing all of the purchasing. I also, in addition to making those purchases, I start making my packing list, because as those items arrive, I want to make sure I put them in one place together, and I want to make sure that they get it onto my packing list. Because what use is ordering like the outlet converters so you can go to Germany and then forgetting to put them on your pack list and thus forgetting them at home, and then you're in Germany and you can't charge your laptop and camera. That didn't happen to me, by the way, but I fear it. So yes, I do make my pack list 1 month before the show, but I start refining the pack list to include things like clothes and toiletries and things like that closer to about 2 weeks before the show. This 1 month pack list is just the start of it. It's the things that I need to bring that might not be top of mind. So like the business cards that I just ordered and got in this week, that's on the list. My badge holders that I need for my badge, that's on the list. I also, in addition to making this list 1 month out, I start taking and gathering all of those items and I put them in one area of my house. So whenever something that I've ordered or I go out and purchase for the trip comes, I put it in that box, in that location, so when it's time for me to actually pack, all I have to do is take that box, which already has everything I needed gathered, and I put it in my suitcase. So, yeah. Which leads me to my packing video, which was the first video and the only other video in this series. If you'd like to see the packing video, if you haven't yet, the packing video is right there. I geared it a little bit more towards Gen Con, but it does have some good hints if you are going to Essen, so go ahead and check that out if you are interested in learning how I pack to and from conventions. I do check my bags for Gen Con and international flights, so all of the games that I bring home from Essen, which you can see this amazing picture, was just brought home with checked luggage. Yes, we brought all of these games home with just checked luggage, and we only had one additional bag that we had to check and pay for the extra baggage fee. So there's that craziness. So if you want to watch my tips on how to pack, go ahead and check out my packing video. So that's it. I hope this video has been helpful for you in planning to go to a convention, or maybe go to a convention in the future if you're not going to this year's Essen. If you are going to this year's Essen, I'm super excited that you're going. We should totally meet up and play games. If you're interested in participating in a video project that I'm doing while Essen, please let me know in DMs or email me at TheOneTAR. Otherwise, yeah, I'll see you at Essen. We should hang out. I believe there's gonna be a meetup. I'm not officially part of the meetup, but I'm gonna be like, hey, can I be part of the meetup? if that makes sense.